Hello everybody, welcome to a video on SDL Trados Live Team using SDL Trados Online. In this video I'm just going to have a general overview of projects and then looking at how we can make one. So let's start. Here we can see we're in language cloud.sdl.com. We've come here and we've logged in with our user ID and password. When you do that, you see this initial ribbon: dashboard, inbox, projects, resources, customers, users, terminology. I'm not going to talk about all of these in this video, and just want to draw your attention to the fact that there's a lot of documentation starting here at well, actually, you can go all the way up to, if you go to docs.sdl.com, this will link to everything to do with SDL RWS. And you can go to the language cloud here. And the language cloud will look at Trados Live in terms of the terminology, Trados Live Essential, Trados Live Team, SDL Language Cloud Translation Management. This video is really looking at how with Trados Live Team we can make an initial project. So let me come back here. I just want to focus on a couple of these before we make the project, because in some ways it's good to try and understand what the components of the project are. It's a little bit more detailed than making a project just in SDL Trados, the desktop version or the desktop version of MemoQ. Users are clearly something that we have to consider. Here I have some users, and you can click on New Member. I've added all my students here. I can click on New Member, and what I can do is I can actually type somebody's email, say where I want the user to be, and then I can add them to a particular group. But the point is, I can, when I've done this, I can click on Invite, and it will send an email to somebody inviting them to come here. And for example, I'll just click on somebody here. Then I can, take the person, their emails, say where they will be. I'm not going to talk about that in this video. I can put them in groups. So basically, they are my users. There's something called customers, which MemoQ considers important. I'm not going to deal with that in this video. Resources. This is perhaps, well, I certainly found it myself. This was the biggest source of confusion when I just went straight in and tried to make a project. Because when you make a project, you'll be confronted with all these things. So I just want to very quickly go through them. A project template, if I click on this, I'm sorry, it's already clicked. Here are a couple of project templates. Let me just click on one and show you what a project template is made of. So a project template has a name, a location. Location, again, I'm not going to. File type configuration, notice you have to have this. And again, there's a default file type configuration. If you want, you can actually make a new one. I'm not going to do it. Basically, this is all the standard files that can be recognized: Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and so on. Here we have English, Portuguese. We have something called custom fields, which we're not going to concern ourselves with. So the key thing here really, I suppose, is the project template has 4 stages, just like the project itself. And if you go through all these stages, you essentially almost make the project already, apart from the files. Let me just go back up if you don't mind, because the second stage is translation engine, but it actually does appear here anyway. So perhaps I should just go through and deal with it like that. Because all these elements come up as part of making a project and actually in project templates. File type configurations are all the different files, as I mentioned, that MemoQ, whoops, I don't think SDL Trados will like that, but SDL Trados Online can open. Now, the linguistic resources also include our friends' translation memories and terminology. Notice there are some other aspects of terminology. Also something called a translation engine, which is a new concept perhaps. So let's look at a translation engine. If we made a new translation engine, we'd give it a name, location. I was suggested to create an area called Playground so I could work out what I wanted. So I got this area called Playground. Language processing rules. Again, these are things like numbers, measurements, time, that we want to process in a standard way. We have our source and target languages. We have translation memories that we can configure by adding one here. We can configure machine translation, and we can configure term bases. So it's resources we may use, which are all put together in one place, which is called a translation engine. And translation engine, as we saw, can have translation memories, terminology, language processing rules, and machine translation. Here, there's a space for neural machine translation models. So that was a very, very quick tour, but essentially these are linguistic resources. And I'm just showing you these because when we now make a project, just to have some kind of idea of what these involve. Right, I'm going to make a project having already made some things here. So let's go to projects. When you open up projects, here I can see the projects I've already got. I've already made the first project for my turma, which is class in Portuguese, class A and one for class B. Let me make another one. So over here, there's a button called New Project. So let's make a new project. To start making a new project, click here. And then you'll see to make a new project involves 4 stages: General, Translation Engine, Workflow, and Settings. General is the general information that we're going to see in a second. We just had a quick look at making a translation engine. Then there's something called Workflow. Workflow is the stages, although I shouldn't use that word, the steps involved in going through all the parts of the project. General, let's enter a project name. Let me call this Turma A project 2. Just to, I can set a due date. I'll just set the end of this month. This video is made in April 2021. I'll put the location in my place playground. Now, the project template, I can select one, but as I said, if you'd made one, you've basically done almost everything, but I haven't got one that I want to use. Source language. Now, one nice thing is you can use the shortcode, so you can type EN-GB to get English United Kingdom. Target language is Portuguese from Portugal, so PG-PT, which gives me Portuguese Portugal. Or just to show you, I can also type it out in full. Okay, I've got enough here now, so I can choose this. And file type configuration, I'm going to use the default. Any additional instructions, notes I might pass on. I'm not going to deal with it today, but there is something called a lead project manager. Differentiate it from other project manager. So that might be one space you could put information. I'm not going to add any custom fields. Now, the one thing I will do is drag some files. Just to make this manageable, I'm just going to choose 4 files. So I can add my file straight away here. I can have one or more. So they're my general settings. I'm going to move on to Translation Engine. And I can just select one. Let me quickly make a new one. I'm going to call this April 5. I'm going to put it in Playground, and it's again going to have the default language processing rules. So the default settings for English and Portuguese, for numbers, time, dates, and so on. My source language is this, my target language is this. I'm completely sure why it doesn't show Portuguese, but there you go. Now, I need a translation memory. I'm going to add a translation memory. Now, I can either use, as I said, I can add one. I've actually got one for term A. I could also make one if I wanted to. So I'm going to add that. Machine translation, I'm not going to do anything with that. Term bases, I'm going to add a term base. And again, I already have a term base sample Portuguese and English, European Portuguese and British English term base. Again, I can make a new one just to save space and time. I'm not going to go through that because this video will already be quite long at the end. I click on add, and now I've got my term base. So now let's click next. A little tip, if you were to make a new translation memory, it won't, you've got to be careful to make sure you click on the update. It doesn't automatically select update. And remember, update, ticking this means that you can actually, when you press Control Enter, your translation will go into the TM. You can also have several TMs and several term bases. Let me click on Next. Now, having mentioned that about the update, there's a problem with the translation engine, so we better go back. I didn't save it, so I have to click here to save. My bad. Because as well as if you make a translation engine as part of a new project, you actually have to save it. Now I'm going to go into the workflow. Now, all the different steps that you can have as part of the project, there's the default. I've made one called April Workflow, which is very, very similar to the default. Again, you can go to Workflow and you can make a new one. I'd prefer not to, just to save time if you don't mind. You basically go through the steps I'm going to show you and make decisions as to what to do. So I've made a workflow called April Workflow. The languages are English, United Kingdom, Portuguese, Portugal. The very first step is file type protection, which is automated. SDL Trados will do that. There's something that's a bit of a new idea, or it was to me, called engineering, which is just another way of saying that, for example, imagine you had a PDF file and you wanted to convert it to a Word document or an Excel or a PowerPoint document. You could get somebody to do that conversion. Well, in SDL Online editor speak terminology, that person will be an engineer. That would be considered an engineering task. I've excluded this task because there's no files or jobs like that needed. The file format conversion is automatic. Basically, Trados will automatically convert your Word or PowerPoint or whatever documents into Trados bilingual documents, SDL, XLIF. It will automatically copy source to target where relevant, and I've decided not to have translation memory matching, machine translation, and I'm not going to make any packages. The analysis, is automated. Preparation, I decided not to have preparation. That's more a project planning task. I want to focus on this just really. There's the project creation, there's the project management, but apart from that, it's mainly about the translating and reviewing. Now, here, translation, we can decide. Notice this is human. I beg your pardon. This is human, but we've excluded it. This is human, and we haven't excluded it. And we shouldn't, of course. We have to do something here. So we have to click where it says Assign Task. Now, I think this is based on a previous one I've done. What I can do here is go and look at all my it wants to keep. If you notice here, I can actually go down and choose from all my users. I can actually choose who are going to be the translators of my project. However, just a tip, to keep life simple, I'm just at this stage going to select myself, William Hardesty. I'm using William Hardesty for myself when I'm talking about myself doing a translation or a revision. When I'm talking about myself being a project manager, I call myself David Hardesty. My full name is David William Hardesty. I'm sorry if this is confusing, but this is because if you're a teacher or a translation tool trainer, when you make projects like this, you're a project manager, an administrator, but it's good that you're also a translator, because then you can actually show students what they will see as a translator. So it's good to have both of those identities. I personally have two IDs, two emails. I'm sorry, I should have said I have two emails. Each of them I take a different identity. So I can basically have two logins to this system. Okay. Again, with the linguistic review, I can choose many people, but I'm just going to choose myself. Finalization, I'm not going to do it again, just to keep everything really simple. And the target file generation will be automatic. There won't be a final check. and the very final error analysis will be done by myself. But please note, myself called David Hardesty. Myself as the project manager will do that final error checking task or error finding. So that's the workflow. So you see we've got some general settings, name, languages, things like that. Then we've got translation engine, which is the new concept for all the linguistic resources, where they will go. Workflow, which is for the different activities we go through from the beginning to the end of the project. And the only one we've got left is settings. We can click here or we can click on next. If I click on settings, I can change. The only one I would suggest changing always is allow editing of source text. I don't know why that's not automatic. It's such a useful thing. You can change different settings. For example, you can come here to the QA check and you can, I don't know, make different. You can change the settings of punctuation. Just to save time, I'm not going to do that. Now, we've been through everything. We've got green ticks. If there's a problem with anything, you'll get a red exclamation mark. So we're ready now to click Create and Start and make the project. Sometimes when I do this, I get an error message, or rather, it just goes on forever and ever and never seems to stop. In this case, it is going to successfully create the project and successfully start the workflow. Now, another reason I just used myself as a translator and a reviser is because of this. When you make a project, it will send emails to the translators and revisers. This is actually for a previous project, but you can see I got this email saying I had a translation task. In this case, this project A1, and it was to translate text number 16. And what is interesting is I can click here, and this would actually open up SDL Trados online editor, and I can log in and go directly. So there's an email here. Just out of curiosity, yeah. And you can see if you make a project with lots of files, this is the mixed blessing of being the project manager, or rather the teacher trying to avoid students getting lots of emails. You yourself get lots of emails. Anyway, let's go back to this. Now, let's just very quickly look at this. We can either click just on the project name, which is project 2, wasn't it? So let's click on that. What happens when we do that? The project opens. Notice that we keep the ribbon of SDS Trados Live at the top, dashboard, inbox projects, and so on. But we get a new ribbon connected to this specific project. Again, we've got another dashboard. Now, something that has a kind of logic to it, but can be potentially very, very confusing at the beginning is we have stages and we have workflow. A workflow consists of stages, but we can't really call them stages because we have stages. We have reports, files, task history, settings, notes. Let's try and go from notes. Notes, we haven't really got very much. Settings, we've got some information about settings which we can look at. Actually quite nice because we can go in and we can edit it if we want. Task history, At the moment, we can see all the tasks that have been done. Loading the file, converting it. Sorry, you can see from the beginning. Detecting the files, converting, copy the source to target, doing some pre-translation. If I may say so, they are similar to the batch tasks that you would do if you made a project in SDL Trados desktop. Right, here are the file list. So again, notice you've got 2 copies of each, because you've got the file format conversion, then you've got the translation. If I were to click on one of these, I can either open the, notice I've clicked on the check mark. Now I can download it, I can open it in the online editor to translate, or I can even open it in Studio. I get some information about the file here. I can also upload some reference files, and I can add files if I want to add more files. Reports. Let me just take away that check mark. I should have done that before. I can get some reports about how many characters per word. Can open this up. And I get statistics. I'm not too interested in this today. I can click on the workflow, and I can remind myself of what we'd created. Okay, let me just go back to the file so I can... Now, I clicked on that to select it. If I actually just open it up as a translation document, so we opened up the project. Now I'm clicking on this, and it's allowing me to do this. Let's move on and go to the stages. So there's various information editing possibilities to be done here. I'll just go to the stages. Now, we've done the pre-processing and the preparation. So here, we can actually assign or reassign rather the translators. And that's in a separate video. I'll just do one. I can click here, translation 1. I can click here to reassign, and so on. This information, and then until we actually finish all the preparation work, is actually in another video, which I would advise you to see, which is the video that comes after this. So, basically, you can see there's quite a lot involved in making a project. What the system seems to have been designed is bearing in mind trying to make templates, translation engines, and so on that you can use again and again. So it seems more complicated to start making your first project, but the logic is then it should get easier, especially if you have regular clients. But all that will be in another video. Thank you very much for watching this.